bringing Gator Nation a different Gator great every episode.
This is Jabari Gaffney. You're listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
Hey, I'm Earl Everett. You're not a Gator, you're Gator bait.
This is Bo Carroll.
Hey, I'm Rita Anthony.
This is Kiwan Ratliff, and you are listening to All for the Gators podcast.
This is Cedric Faison, a.k.a. C4.
This is Brandon James.
This is Jack Jackson. Go Gators.
Hi, this is your boy Jeremy Mincy, a.k.a. Mr. Mintz, and we were the All for the Gators podcast.
This is Ben Trooper. You listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
Hey, guys, this is Jarvis Moss. Go Gators.
You rocking with Lito Shepherd, and we're All for the Gators podcast, man. Top notch.
This is Chris Doring, and you're listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
And now, your Gator alumni hosts, John, Andy, and Sid.
Cold open in 3, 2, 1.
Got a countdown?
Very cool, very cool.
That's a cold open right there. You don't get that anywhere else. I'll just tell you that.
I don't know about you guys, but with the regular season ending, Super Bowl over, we're kind of like in that little football hangover. I was kind of just thinking back through my Rolodex of my memories here of awesome Gators, awesome Gator receivers.
Lots of them.
Lots of them. I
don't even have to be here. I like this. Keep going, Sid.
John, you go take a hike. Me and Andy got this. Hey, yeah, we're good. Obviously, we got friends of the show. We got Jabbar. We got Riddell. Yeah, we got
Chad Jackson.
Exactly.
Jack Jackson.
All the Jacksons.
So, yes. But you know what's interesting about all those guys? It's been a minute since they played. When's the last time we had a receiver get 1,000 yards? Do you guys know?
Well, I know we had Kadarius Toney. He came very close in 2020.
Yeah.
And Pearsall came close, right?
Yeah, Pretty Ricky. Not last year, the year before.
He's all about those close calls, good, bullets and everything. He's all about.
I think he only needed 60 yards in that last game. And everybody was
and we stunk.
Yeah, and he didn't get it.
Yeah.
So
Antonio Callaway?
I don't know. Look that up.
Did he get there?
Let's see.
Let's check our crack staff.
How about tight ends? We've had some good tight ends. Does that count? If they hit 1,000 yards, is that a 1,000-yard receiver?
Now you're getting technical, Sid. I don't like it.
Oh man, that's not my expertise.
You think we got a full-time staff here to do this research? Callaway 678 and 721, 2015 and 16.
Not that close. Not that close.
But I'll tell you who was close and who did it and who was the last one to do it.
Yep, just pulled it up.
Yeah, who's that?
Our guest today.
Wow.
There you go. That's a good intro.
Let's do it.
You know, guys, having any Gator grade on the show is pretty awesome in and of itself, right? But when we get one that's etched their mark all over the UF record book, that's special. And today's guest did just that. Growing up in Seminole land, he attended FAMU Developmental Research High School, where he was a top athlete in track, on the baseball diamond, and an All-American on the football field. He played some quarterback and ran, but really got attention playing wide receiver his senior season. Spurrier plucked this gem right out of Bowden's backyard, and as a Gator would go on to become one of the greatest receivers Florida has ever seen, and that's no small feat. His 133 receptions ranked 10th on the UF's all-time list. His 1,088 yards in 02 is the 7th best mark ever recorded in a season, and no one in the 120-year storied history of this prestigious football program has ever hauled in passes for more yards in a single game, 246, than this guy. Gator Nation, I give you 2000 SEC champ, 2002 team captain, Orange Bowl MVP, and first team All-SEC, and the last 1,000-yard Gator receiver, Mr. Taylor Hauser Jacobs.
All right. Pleasure to be here.
Welcome.
Yes, sir. I mean, since day one of doing the show, you are one of our favorite Gators that we've really been trying to connect with and get on the show. So thank you so much for making it possible.
Yeah, it's my privilege, such an honor to do something for the Gator Nation and just to be a part of this. So it's great.
So the last wide receiver with 1,000 yards. We know Kadarius Toney came close in 2020. Pretty Ricky came close a couple years ago, 23, but no cigar. So do you celebrate every time a Gator season ends and no receiver reaches that plateau?
No, honestly, I don't. I cheer those guys on to go in and conquer that feat.
Nice.
It's not easy, but no, I cheer those guys on. I'm pulling for all of them.
See, he's not like the Dolphins with Don Shula. See, like you're right. Dolphins fans there, John.
Are you surprised to still be the last 1,000-yard receiver? We were.
I am. It is. I was just kind of reminiscing about my junior year. I think Jabbar had 1,100 and some yards, and Riche had 1,000 and something, and I was close to 900, but there were 2,000-yard receivers the year before me, and then Jabbar was 2 years before that, and Travis Taylor was my freshman year, and and on before that, So yeah, there was 1,000-yard receiver every year since I had been there, and I, you didn't appreciate it, and while you were the next guy necessarily from a monumental standpoint, but now you're looking back and seeing the difficulties that it takes to get there. I'm very, very fortunate to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take it back a little bit. You're born and grew up in Tallahassee.
Yes.
Were you a Seminole fan doing the chomp while they were heading towards their national championship runs back then with Wenke and Warwick and all those guys?
I envied Peter Warwick and all those guys, Chris Winkie. Never really even thought that I would, be that good to be able to play at that level. So, that was necessary. That was shooting for the stars for me. Like I just, I didn't foresee myself doing that, and then so growing up, it was just more about just finding a place that would take me, hopefully that I would be able to walk on somewhere. But I had some growth spurts here and there, and materialized and turned out to be a D1 athlete that I never thought I was going to be.
Well, taking it back to the high school, FAMU development research, as John mentioned in his excellent intro there, doesn't sound like your traditional run-of-the-mill high school. Is this like a sports factory? Tell us about what exactly is FAMU developmental research? Easy for me to say.
Yeah. Well, it's it was a small school on FAMU's campus, and actually was coached by my late father, who coached Ron Dugans, who went to Florida State, and Sam Madison, who was a Pro Bowl for the Dolphins. Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah, corner.
And so and then we had Theon Rackley, who went to Florida State, and a couple of guys that went D1. So per capita, we, like my senior year, we had 16 players on our team. We just we couldn't have a full scrimmage, obviously, so we half line scrimmaged, and I mean, no, it was a small school. I, like I said, I was just really fortunate to catch Coach Spurrier's eye, and and got the opportunity.
So while you were there, you excelled at baseball. You ran in the 1999 Florida High School Track and Field Championships.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, you played football. Did you have a favorite sport? Was it football then?
Actually, coming through high school, it was definitely, it was, between football and baseball. We didn't have a very good baseball team at the time, so, it was tough, but, it ran in between that. Track, the reason I ran track was because I have a genetic code where I build muscle super fast, and a lot of muscle on the football field is not very good if it's not functional. So, I kind of ran track to hide from the weight room. But growing up, I think I was a soccer player. I loved to play soccer, and but my dad made it very clear that I was going to play football.
Football, you played several positions. You played quarterback, you ran the ball a little bit, you played receiver. At what point in your young career did you realize you had some special talent on the football field?
Honestly, I think that, there was a game and we were playing versus Port St. Joe. And my mother didn't see it, and she was at the game, but my mom didn't see me going anywhere in football. Just loved to play the game, but my dad had this vision that I was going to play football, and so he always saw it. And I remember that game. I caught 3 touchdowns, and honestly, it felt like the good Lord was coming down, holding my hands, catching that ball, and I just felt like I couldn't wrap my mind around, what had just happened. It was a 3 touchdown game, and I probably caught for, maybe 120 some yards, nothing, off the charts, but, it was like, wow, what was that feeling? And to think that I had reached that level, to catch a touchdown pass like that, over my shoulder, and was a deep threat, and was one of the fastest guys on the field. And it was just one of those things that, like I said, I didn't ever think it was going to happen like that, and it did. But that was, my mom, when I got to the side, after the game, my mom says, well, I guess we're not going to have to use that Florida prepaid. So and so she said that was the moment where she knew. And I just, gosh, I mean, I was like living a dream that, I mean, what is this? So that's when I first realized, my junior year playing Port St. Joe.
Clearly, you're not the only one who saw that talent there, recruited by big-time schools, Auburn, Clemson, of course, right there, Bowdoin, right there at your backyard. So what was it that got you down to Gainesville? Was it the chance to catch passes from Rex, and who recruited you?
Dwayne Dixon was the receiver coach, and he came and saw me. I think Coach Sanders was a defensive guy that recruited my area. And, Coach Spurrier eventually came and saw me. Those guys were, kind of headed off, my recruiting as far as, getting recruited by the Gators.
So you get to campus in 99, and you walk into that wide receiver room. It's just loaded, right? D-Jack, Travis Taylor, you mentioned, Riche, Willis, Capel, even Jabbar's there. He's redshirting.
Right.
What was your mindset as a true freshman?
Honestly.
Were you intimidated?
Oh, gosh. I remember, like, first day, my mom and my father dropped me off, and it was like, all right, I'm here, and I'm going to get my laundry, my laundry clip to get ready to start workouts, and you ask Javon Curse this, he'll never. It was probably not even a blip on his radar, but I walked by, the the stud of all studs that come from UF, Javon Curse, and I'm like, I looked at him, and I remember, I was, just turned 18, and he looked like something that was just not made on earth. I mean, it was just like something, and it was like, there's no way in the world I belong here, and and then you get in the receiver room with all these soon to be Gator greats. And it's like, I just was in awe that I belong there. And, so, my first impression was like, gosh, these guys made a mistake by giving me a scholarship, but I'm gonna do my best to make the team better. And, but it was really, it was hard to comprehend, where I was at the time. Because like I said, I just didn't dream that big, I just, being around those guys was just, a dream come true. I mean, when you start to believe that you have a shot.
Or you were glad the freak was on your side.
Yeah, well, he had just graduated, so I never got a chance to play with him.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
And so, you see those guys, and you're like, you're glad that if I ever do have to play them, you want to know where they are on the field at all times.
For sure.
We talked about your speed. Let's talk a little bit about speed that was there at UF at the time. You had Bo Carroll, John Capel was there. That's a lot of speed.
Right.
Were there any races going on after practice? Some bragging rights? Anything there?
No. John Capel and Bo Carroll were on a different level, but John Capel was, I think, he played my freshman year, and then he went off to run track professionally and was like the world champion in the 200 meters. And so he was something to watch. He's one of those guys that you're fast and you're around other fast people, and then this guy has a whole nother gear, and it's like, wow, you buy a ticket to watch him run.
So that season, you're the only true freshman receiver to play in '99. You get in 10 games, and this is basically the Doug and Jesse show then. But mention the impressive wide receiver room. Any of those older guys take you under their wings and show you the ropes as a young freshman coming in?
Yeah. Definitely. Daryl Jackson was instrumental, and Travis Taylor was instrumental, and Alex Willis, and those guys and Brian Hagerbrook were Brian Hagerbrook is my cousin, and Travis Taylor and Daryl Jackson definitely showed me how it was done without using words. If I asked them questions, of course they would tell me, but football is not a game of too many words. It's a physical game, and you can talk about X's and O's and drawing straight lines on a dry erase board, but you get out there in the heat of the battle, those lines get squiggly, and you got to improv and be spontaneous. But yeah, those guys were always willing, to help, and and that just bred stronger competition, which made everybody better, and it was important for me because I had played so many positions in when I was in high school that I was not a pure wide receiver. I got a scholarship at UF as an athlete, and Coach Spurrier just said, "We're going to teach you how to play wide receiver, son." And and that that was a process in itself, and I was told that I was going to redshirt because Jabbar Gaffney and Elgin Hicks were there, and they were superstar wide receivers in high school, and I just wasn't a natural wide receiver. And I went out and we were testing for the 40, and I broke the freshman 40 record on grass, and I'm like, yeah, you're going to play this year. And so I was pushed on the field fast, and and so it was like, one moment you're playing in front of maybe 500 people in college, and in high school, and then you walk out into the swamp where I think in the time it was like 90s, high, upper 90s thousands of people. I think it was like 93,000 people were there, and it's like, whoa, you're right there, and they're all there to see you. So it's pretty intense.
Last episode, we actually had one of your teammates on, Ian Scott from the D line.
Okay. Yeah.
And he told us a story, a very intimate story between him and Alex Brown the spring before he started that was really monumental in his development, meant a lot to him. Was there any advice any one of those Gator wide receivers gave you, or any moment that you can think of that really made it click to you like, okay, I got to be a wide receiver and I got to perform the way a Gator wide receiver's got to perform?
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, there was not one moment that I can remember that kind of really changed me until after my sophomore year, and Coach Spurrier called me into his office for some reason, and and he told me that I was gonna have all the ability that a great receiver has, size and speed and hard work ethic. It just wasn't happening for me, and he told me, he said, "You're gonna go to the back of the depth chart, and they got 5 freshmen coming in, and it's one of those things that he believed in me, but things weren't happening. So he said, he said that we're going to put you in the back of the depth chart, and you go from starting your first couple games your sophomore year and losing your starting position, and then going to the back of the depth chart just because of lack of production." And I totally understood it. I deserved it. I earned what I got. And I walked out of his office and just said to myself, after that meeting, and just said, "Well, I can't get any worse. So let me go out here and get my teammates better in practice." And that was the moment where everything changed for me. That's the moment, and that was spring football. We can't win into spring football, and I was just a different person, and but that was the moment.
Man, great story. Let's take it back to 99 real quick, because I got to mention it. Did it bother you watching the Noles win it all that season? I think they went undefeated.
When you're a Gator and you felt like, you were looked over, for a long time by, your hometown squad, there's always an extra, extra bite in that I don't ever want to see somebody fail, But if there were some teams that I could pick out that I would want to win a national championship that year, it wouldn't have been them. I guarantee you that.
We're on the same page there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That next year, 2000, you take on a larger role in the rotation, but Rex takes over the reins. Tell us a little bit about your first impressions of Rex, and did you see early on how great he could be?
Yeah, it could be World War III going on around him, and you never know. He was just as calm as could be. He didn't, and he never got too high, and he never got too low. And so mark of a great leader is somebody that can balance themselves regardless of what's going on around them. They're not going to get drunk off their successes because they know that kind of mentality you will crucify yourself when you fail. And, so he was always even keel, and you knew that, he was he never threw his receivers. I can count maybe on one hand the times I remember him, remember a defender getting a kill shot on one of the receivers. He always put us in great situations and was always a calming voice. And by the time my senior year hit, we were almost best buddies.
That's great. Well, so that season, you're named to the Blitnikoff watch list in the preseason, but you sprained your ankle in the spring. Sometimes sprains can be even worse than a bone break. Was this a problem? Did that linger and affect you in the season?
No, like I said, I came to UF and I was told I was going to redshirt, and just because you can test really well and you can have all these great numbers and you can work your behind off, but when you're in a car and you're going to take a 12-hour trip, it's going to take 12 hours. And you're not going to be able to get out of the car and start pulling the road back and say, I'm going to make this trip shorter. You're going to have to do your time. And I didn't have I didn't have that time in my system, to learn the nuances of being a wide receiver. And, I was just a raw talent. And super fast, super strong, super hardworking, very coachable. But at the end of the day, the coaches couldn't play the game. And I went into thinking that I was going to be able to redshirt, and then Jabbar ended up redshirting and Elgin ended up redshirting, and they got that time to develop. And they probably didn't need it, and I was the one who needed it. But because I was fast, they pushed me along faster than I was ready to be pushed. And I just didn't have that confidence in myself to play at that level. And then, so coming into my sophomore year, I ended up winning the starting receiver position across from Rishe Caldwell. And I wasn't ready. And there was a couple games there where I really laid an egg. And I remember Coach Spurrier he telling me, he's like, son, we were watching tape, and he said, son, I love you, but you just can't do that. And he never really, was that open with somebody, but he said in front of the whole team, it's just like, you can't do it. And, and so I was just forced into something that I wasn't ready to do. And I got to a position that I wasn't ready to handle. And I take back the word force. I earned that position, but it was just much bigger than what I could handle at the time. So that was my low point when it came to my college career.
So you talk about being raw back in the 2000 year, but you still show some flashes of greatness there. In week one, you lead the Gators in receiving. And then in week two, you have your first career touchdown versus Middle Tennessee. What was that feeling like, getting to the end zone in the swamp for the first time?
Surreal. Surreal, to say the least. Honestly, like when you're out there, I don't know if it's my mentality, my personality, just humble guy, don't really say much. It was surreal. You go back and you look at, those clips, and you're just like, is that me out there? And it's amazing, number one, walk on that field. Number two, to wear a Gator uniform. Number three, like be able to score a touchdown. For a receiver, that's insane.
Talk a little bit more about that week 2 game. I was looking at the box score here just now. You had a touchdown. You had Ernest Graham had a touchdown. Aaron Walker had a couple of TDs. Lito Shepherd had a punt return, touchdown. Todd Johnson had a fumble return for a touchdown.
Who's who of stars
touchdowns everywhere. So many plays. Big plays by big players. Do you think the Gators now are on their way back to that level of play?
100% believe that. I think I really, really believe in Coach Napier. I think he is, I've had a chance to talk to him over the summer when I had my 2 sons at their camp. And, just a first class guy, and a great coach. And so, I think he's the guy to lead the charge. And I do believe we're headed back in the right direction.
Oh, I sure hope so.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
So the Gators win the SEC championship that season by beating Auburn. How special was that as a team accomplishment for you to have been a part of?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, to be at that level and to experience a conference championship in the strongest conference in college football.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is that championship game. That championship game in the SEC is the national championship.
Yes, sir.
And I believe that it still is the national championship. And, I think that when you have to play that level of competition over and over and over again, I hear, you hear these people, the Gators are getting a bowl game or SEC team will get in a bowl game, and one of these other, conferences will come in, that so-called themselves Power 5 and whatever, a P4, whatever they say they are these days, and they'll beat an SEC team where they only had to play a couple of games of the year. I mean, all those teams have boxes of matches. And if you're striking 10 matches every week and another team is striking 1 or 2, at the end of the season, you're going to have more matches. And so when people don't realize is that SEC championship is, and they may not realize it, like I said, but that is the national championship, and it'll always be in my mind. And I don't care, what kind of system they have, but if you have, you got 10 games a season and you're going up against, 9 of those opponents or 8 of those opponents are have top tier talent and are, have those programs that could play for a national championship. I mean, you're gonna take some licks on the way that is gonna take a little bit about, the battle of attrition is a real thing when it comes to, going through a season and getting into those championship games, and how much do you have left when you get there? I mean, you see it in the NFL all the time. It's, the team that all the teams, face attrition, but which one of them goes through that rate the slowest is going to win the Super Bowl. And it's the same thing going through the SEC. So to win a championship ever, and SEC championship it's great. It's awesome.
I was at that game in Atlanta. Thank you. That was an awesome experience. But I'm kind of a jewelry guy. I got a question. Where's the ring?
Yeah. That is a great question. I think I gave it to my father a long time ago.
That's nice. And he was your coach, you said. So, that's special.
yeah, my coach, best friend, my rock, man. So
awesome. So in 2001, you really emerge as a big-time receiver. You have Rex at QB for a full season. And we all know it was really a Heisman season from the year before. But do you think that caliber of quarterbacking played a big part in your success? Obviously, you got to catch the balls.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And then Rex is one of those guys. I mean, he knows when to rocket it in there, and he knows when to touch it in there. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of times where, the receiver catches the ball, right? Well, I say wrong. Sometimes the ball catches the receiver. And I tell you, there's a couple balls that I promise you, only Rex can throw. He was just, he was a rock star, to say the least.
For sure.
So that year you play in every game, and you referred to Jabbar and Rashee's 1,000-yard seasons. You put up a strong 38 catches for 712 yards.
Right.
You lead all Gators wide receivers with 18.7 yards per catch that season.
Mm-hmm.
How was your relationship with Jabbar and Rashe? Was it a healthy competition? Was there ever frustration?
No, honestly, I was the perfect fit, for that relationship because I was the guy that was, I mean, if I had to be the number 3 receiver, that's what I felt like I earned. And those two guys were just, it was like a brotherhood, man. Like nobody was jealous of anybody, we win together and we lose together. We all want each other to do great because at the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same thing. And you got one, big time wide receiver, and everybody else is, average. Well, who's going to get double teamed? So you got multiple threats, to go to on the field. And you saw in '96, when Coach Spurrier wins the championship with Ike and Riedel and Jaquez and Danny Werfel. I mean, it was this kind of the same setup, and it was that kind of a year.
Week 4 that year, you guys just completely destroy Mississippi State, 52-0, and you catch a 60-yard bomb from Rex. Is that one of your favorite plays? Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, they were in a cover 4, a flat top coverage, or a combo coverage where they were playing on one side. They were playing they could have been playing cover 4. Well, on my side, it would look like cover 4. And when the play comes out, you go out there, you line up and like, oh, they're in that coverage. You're like, oh, this could be great. And so then you go back to your coaching points. You want to step on the defender's toes per se. But that just means that you want to close this cushion as quickly as possible, and then make your break without showing where you're going first, and then just use your God-given ability and turn on the afterburners. And there was the defense that they were in, I mean, against a team with super speed, in that kind of situation is not going to be good for the defense.
It was not.
You mentioned blowouts. I got to ask about the Orange Bowl. Obviously, a little disappointment that the season ended the way it did, but boy, did you take it out on Maryland. You go off 10 catches, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. What memories do you have of that experience there in the Orange Bowl? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I like I said, I believe that was our year to win the national championship, and Tennessee was always that team in the end of the year that you did not want to face. And of course 9/11 happened that year, and that was a tragedy. And we were supposed to play them on that week, and they the country was shut down because of that tragedy. And obviously football should have been stopped. But Tennessee was tough at the end of the year, and we got them at the end of the year, and it was a barn burner in the swamp, and I think if we'd had them earlier in the year, we would have beat them, and the other things could happen in that game where we could have won that game. But anyways, we get to the Orange Bowl, and we're down there for a week before we play, and we're going through the bowl week practices, and Coach Spurrier says you're gonna have a big game this week, and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking like, sure, buddy. I'm gonna have a big game. I'm number 3 guy, but sounds good. But he had a plan, and lo and behold, he was right. And they had a couple good corners on there, and Coach Spurrier was notorious in those times that he was gonna gamble that you had one good corner, maybe 2, but you darn sure didn't have 3. And we were gonna find the weakest link, and we're gonna go after them. And normally, I would draw that corner. If they were playing man, I would draw their 3rd corner. And, I welcome that.
Mismatch.
Yes.
So the next season, Coach Spurrier is out, and Coach Zook is in. As a wide receiver in the world-famous Fun and Gun, just beginning to spread your wings, what was going through your mind when you heard about the coaching change?
It was shocking. It was shocking. But when the shock wore off, I understood his decision. Totally did. And, I feel like people have to make hard decisions sometimes to move on. And if it's for the better of that person, you got to be happy for them. But, I was shocked. But, me and, Rex had an opportunity to go after his junior year, and so did I. And we agreed to stay back and see if we couldn't, elevate our draft stock and give it one more go together. And we had some good wide receivers that were there. When Jabbar and Riche left, there were more good receivers, and Rex said, well, "Let's stay," and I said, "Well, let's stay," and so it was a good time. It was a good time.
You're the first year under Zook. Gators obviously don't have the results that you guys all expected, but it starts out good.
Right.
Week 1, special game for you and for the program. You set the single game record at UF for receiving yards with 246. And I want to say this slowly, on 8 catches.
Yeah.
So 8 catches for 246.
and so
just for our listeners so they can digest that. And you have 2 touchdowns. Tell us about that game.
And so if you would go back and, look at that game, I had another that was probably 50 plus, maybe close to 60, yard bomb that was down to the 2. And, one of the offensive linemen, I guess their hand slipped up and hit a defensive lineman in the face mask. And so that was called back. And so I probably would have had over 300 on 9 catches. But the
that's a pretty good average.
Yeah, exactly. The offensive lineman, I guess, slipped, and it was illegal hands to the face by an offensive lineman, and that got called back. But we had been looking forward to that all summer. There had been some stuff being said, over whatever form of social media we had back in that day, that got back to me and was very, very motivating. And so I'm not the biggest trash talker, but if I do catch you saying something about me, I will remember it, and you're gonna make me work harder because I'll think about you every time I'm tired. And so it was one of those things where it was personal, and we wanted to send a message that though we had lost a lot of talent, we were still there and ready to battle it out with anybody. And so that was a big day. Like I said, 202 yards at halftime, and you're just sitting there, one of those surreal moments, like, come on now, this can't be happening. Yes, it is.
This sets you in motion for a ridiculously historic season.
Right.
You lead UF in SEC in receptions with 71, 1,088 yards, 8 touchdowns, and that's with missing almost 3 games after that injury in the Georgia game. Do you ever think of what could have been if you had a chance to get the full season out there with Rex? What your stats could have looked like at the end of the year if you got those other 3 games in, or didn't have touchdowns called back?
Just to all the young receivers that are coming up, if you hear this, listen to your coaches teach you about blocking technique. It is important that you need to block use that, use your running plays to show off your physicality and just being a team player and just being a professional and playing every play. And so my story in that is that, Coach Dixon would always tell me, he was like, son, you always got to make sure you have your feet side to side and make sure you you shadow them like you're playing defense on basketball. You shadow them. And there sometimes receivers get lazy. And if a defender runs to the outside, they'll push them outside. And if they run inside, they'll push them inside. And that's a lazy way to block. And the reason is that, if you give your feet side by side, then you give the running back that's behind you a 2-way go. But if you push them one way, then it gives a running back a 1-way go, or whoever you're blocking for a 1-way go. And I turned and I was lazy. And first like 2 or 3 plays of the Georgia game, I was lazy, and the guy ran inside, and I followed him inside and tried to push him down in, and Ernest Graham ran right into my knee, and it cost me, basically 4 games. I mean, a month of playing. And yeah, I do go back and I think, it's like, gosh, Taylor, if you would have crossed your T's and dot your I's, you could have been at that moment, at that time. I can remember the numbers up down to a T. I mean, I had 57 catches for like 905 yards, and I was like top 5 in the country, and ready to have a big explosion in the meat of our schedule. And gosh, I mean, I was averaging almost 100 yard a game, so I didn't see why I couldn't continue to average that. And like, I probably could have broke every single game, single season record in Florida's history, but it just wasn't meant to be. That was a heartbreaking moment. Definitely initially because I thought my career was over, and definitely looking back on it, gosh, if I just would have been, done the little things right, I could have had more success. But like I said, you know, I'll be able to teach that to the generation that's coming behind me.
Well, it still was one of the most historic seasons by a Gator wide receiver, as is.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I got to ask you a question though. When you have a lineman that gets a penalty and gets a 60-yard bomb called back, is he buying you a steak dinner that night? Does he make up for it?
Yeah.
Doing your laundry for a month, something.
He probably buy it and probably eat it right in my face. No, it's that's part of the game. All in all seriousness, it's part of the game. And I'm that personality where I just, I understand people make mistakes sometimes. It's just, I know last time I checked, the only perfect one to walk the face of this planet was Jesus Christ, and I'm not him. And so I know that people are human, and it's just like you're going out there and you hear guys, as a receiver, you hear guys, people say, how could you drop that pass? How could you do that? How could you miss that block? And it's like, you have to sit back and ask yourself, did that guy wake up in the morning and say, I can't wait to go out here and drop this pass? I mean, does he honestly go out there and say, when I go out here today, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna drop that pass. I just can't wait. No. And so a lineman gets out there and he's blocking his butt off and it's sweaty and he's been grinding all game and his hand slips off somebody's wet jersey and hits him in the face mask. Yeah, I mean, like, that stuff happens, so it's just like one of those things. It wasn't meant to be like that. And there are some people that I know would have been extremely upset, but not me.
Despite missing those games, like you said, you were on pace for potentially a historic season.
Mm-hmm.
And you get recognized for it. You're a semifinalist for the Blitnikoff Award. You're
Right.
first team All-SEC team captain, which
Right.
I'm sure meant something to you
Right.
that year. What are you most proud of when you look back at your time in the orange and blue?
Gosh, I walked onto that campus, a boy in an adult body, and I left, not fully developed as a man, but great day, doing some things that that I really never even thought I was capable of, and being around some of the best guys that somebody could ever imagine to do it next to, under some of the greatest coaches in the best university on the face of this planet. And just like I said, to be a part of something, so incredible. You go back and you just look at the tradition, and I get chills talking about it now. And I often, it seems like a lifetime ago that I even played. But it was just, I mean, there's not words to describe, my appreciation to the University of Florida, to the Gator fans, to the guys that do the stuff, the men and the women who do the stuff behind the scenes that make it possible for us to go out there on the field and participate, and be in front of, the crowd, be in front of the Gator Nation. And I just, I'm kind of awestruck, going back and looking at it and taking a trip down memory lane and just thinking, like, that was what a ride, just like what a blessing, how fortunate was I to be a part of that and to even leave a mark where people even remember me is incredible. So just a level of gratitude that I can't really explain to put in words to how grateful I am to not just the University of Florida, but the Gator Nation for accepting me and having me.
Well, you're definitely remembered and apprecited, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that.
And your success in Gainesville led you to the NFL draft, 2003.
Yeah.
Fell a little bit into the second round, but you had to see the dots lining up there with Coach Spurrier waiting for you in the nation's capital. Did you kind of suspect that as you were approaching that pick that might be where you'd be landing?
Yeah, it's probably one of the worst days of my life, and in my first world life, so to think that, to know that I was going to be the third or fourth receiver taken, and
you thought you were going in the first round, right?
Yeah, and exactly, and Coach Spurrier actually came to Gainesville and had dinner with me and Rex, and they said that you're not going to be around past pick 12, and that's what people are saying around the NFL, and so we're going to go out and get a free agent wide receiver, and they went and got Lavernius Coles, and draft day came, and the defensive lineman, I think there were 11 defensive linemen taken, and it was a defensive draft, and the next year there were 5 receivers taken in the top 15. And, had I came out 1 year later, I would have been in that group. But the following year after that, the first receiver was taken in the top of the second round. So, as my 43-year-old mind sits here, I can understand, how it was, how it happened. My 21-year-old mind is like, gosh, this is terrible. This is horrible right now. And, but when Coach Spurrier had an opportunity to take me, it was once again one of those things that it was a blessing.
Were you excited to reunite with the Ole Ball Coach? He had his Gator skins experiment going on. That didn't work the prior year. I think he lost like 11 games, and most of those Gators were out by then. By the time you got there, what were your thoughts on what he was doing there in Washington?
I thought that he didn't have the support, the backing that he had in college. The NFL is a different place. There's a lot of stuff that people see on TV, but there's a lot of stuff behind closed doors that there's so many agendas and so many business decisions and all this stuff where it's just not. And I believe that he could have done the same thing he did in college. He didn't have the support that he deserved, and I will believe that to the end of time.
3 years there in Washington with the Redskins, and move on to San Francisco, and then end your career with the Broncos. You had 2 touchdown receptions in the NFL. Do you remember who threw those touchdowns to you?
Gosh, I'm not sure the one in Dallas, and I think it was Alex Smith when I was playing for the 49ers when I caught one against the Steelers. I think, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So it was another ride.
Did you keep the balls?
I think I might have it up in my attic. Honestly,
in your attic.
Oh man, that would be in view as soon as you open my front door. It'd be the first thing you see. Trip over it.
Yeah, I know. I just it's there's just I mean there are moments in time that they should be I should do a better job of taking care of that stuff, but I just not really focused on it, kind of when I got out of the NFL, just kind of really, moved on,
Okay. So since you're out of the NFL, now I understand you're a personal trainer, and you mentioned that your sons went out to the swamp with you. Any chance we're going to see them in orange and blue following in Dad's footsteps out there?
I hope so. I hope so. They, hadn't been at a school that is, known for recruiting and stuff like that. And this day and age, it's important that, guys that want to go play college football, are at schools that are going to promote them and help them get the most out of, their high school experience and then, be and connect the dots for colleges. And so, they came to the camp and, Coach Napier, my oldest son is a quarterback, has all the speed that I had and, a dual threat guy. And, nice. Coach Napier called him into the office after camp to talk to him and just said, we're going to keep an eye on you. And he told me when we got there, he said, Taylor, I didn't even know that was your son. I didn't even know that he was here. And it wasn't until he asked one of the guys, who's the lefty, quarterback here that's throwing, really well. And, he said, it's like, that's Taylor Jacobs' son. And it's like, oh my gosh. And so when he got up there, Coach Napier told him and said, hey, I didn't know who your dad was. And, he just congratulated him. And my youngest son, who is a year behind my oldest son, is a wide receiver, just like I was. And, and they, Coach Gonzalez really, liked him. And so, we'll see. I mean, in a perfect world, I would say, yeah. I mean, I know 100% sure that they have, the engine that I had and then some. And, my youngest son, I think I ran 11:55 my freshman year in high school, and he ran 10:9 and broke the school record in 100 meters and can fly as well. So so yeah, I'm hoping, and my oldest will be a senior coming up this year. They'll be going to Lincoln High School and here in Tallahassee, and my youngest will be a junior, a rising junior. So they'll be back to back. So, hopefully, we can, turn the heads down there to get them to give them a spot. I love
Jacobs
that.
to Jacobs for 6 over there. Let's have it. I like it.
That'd be great. That would be great. You said it first.
Taylor, what advice do you give your sons that maybe you wish you would have had, young in high school?
That I'm gonna love them regardless. God's plan for my life was to do this, and God's plan for their life may not be the same path that it was. And I want them to go out there and throw caution to the wind, and just go have fun, be free. It doesn't matter whether they make it in football or not, or any sport. Their dad's gonna love them the same. It doesn't matter, and they'll still be able to go whatever college they want to go to. And I know they want to make their own way and do their own thing, but they just need to know that regardless what happens, that doesn't change the way I look at them. And so I've always told them, and this is it's a difficult journey. I mean, my oldest son is a quarterback, and he has 2 committable offers right now to Division II schools. And, you look at guys like Cam Ward, who had 1 coming out of high school. I mean, 1. And, and so, my oldest son will play college football, playing quarterback somewhere. But, if it didn't happen, I love them not because they're good football players, but because they're my sons. And so I want to take the pressure out of it. That ball flipping in the air to me when I was there, when I was in high school and in college, was freedom for my family. I catch this ball and my parents can retire. And I catch this ball and, I can live in a nice house in the suburbs somewhere, and, for them, they're going to be fine one way or another. So just be carefree and be an upstanding person and just go for it, man. And whatever happens is supposed to happen. Whatever happens.
Man, that's great advice. And, I'm a father. I coach my son's little league teams, and, sometimes when they strike out looking, I don't know if I can say I can do that.
Yeah.
Run a laugh. Hey, sometimes it's tough.
When you talk about baseball, that's a different thing. You buy them a $300 bat, and they don't use it on strike 3. It's like, hey, buddy,
that's right.
Take that bat off your shoulder.
Right.
Get that off the shoulder.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's right.
Well, man, Taylor, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on. Before we let you go, you're such a nice guy. You're so humble in telling us all about your life experiences. There's got to be something when you're by yourself and you're in your mind of minds, just thinking about everything you've experienced between high school and University of Florida and the NFL, something that you think in your head, yeah, I did that. That's right. What is that one thing?
One thing that I could say, yeah, I did that. It would be to be 1,000-yard wide receiver at UF. It's like,
nice.
When I broke 1,000 yards, it was so sweet to come back and do that against Florida State. And when I left that game, I had 1,000 yards on the head. And so it was almost like it was meant to be. I came into that game with 905 yards, and I left that game with 95 yards. And, to do it there and to be like, to be a 1,000-yard Gator receiver, is impressive.
Well, that's the perfect way to end the show, Taylor. We end the show with a bit, and we're going to let you build an ultimate dog at wide receiver, and we'll do it quick, okay?
All right.
So what this means is I'm going to give you 5 characteristics of a wide receiver, and you got to pick a Gators wide receiver that you're going to pick that characteristic from.
All right.
All right. You ready?
Let's go.
All right. Size.
Travis Taylor.
Okay. Speed.
Myself.
Nice.
Oh, good answer. Hands.
Jabbar Gaffney.
All right. Strength.
Let's see here. I'm going to say Chad Jackson.
Oh,
good one.
Big swole. All right.
Yeah.
And last one, agility.
I kill you.
Oh, good answer.
Yeah,
all right.
That's a good one.
So Taylor Jacobs, ultimate dog at wide receiver. Size, Travis Taylor. Speed, himself, Taylor Jacobs. Hands, Jabbar Gaffney. Strength, Chad Jackson. And agility, Ike Hilliard. Taylor.
Pretty damn good receiver.
Thank you so much. We've been trying for so long to get you on. Thank you for making it possible. Thank you for being so humble and such an awesome guest and sharing everything, about your life and experiences with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you for having me on.
All right. Thank you.
Can I get a go Gators?
Go Gators. And if you're not a Gator, Gator bait.
Nice.
All
That's
right.
a way to end it right there.
What do you guys think?
Awesome.
I think we just talked to the Gators' last 1,000-yard receiver, and I don't know about you, gentlemen, but I'm impressed. That was a good dude.
I'm impressed with his character, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great guy. Well,
Absolutely.
you don't get voted team captain. That he earned it. Clearly, good dude.
He did. All right, guys, ready for our 2 bits?
Oh yeah. Who's first today?
Well, you made me go last time. Can I go first?
Oh, okay, sure.
I mean, you took over the intro. Are you going to take over the close too?
I'm okay with that, but go right ahead.
Thanks for the permission. All right. My 2 bits is, like I said, what a nice guy. How humble was he in the positions he was put in. Playing high school sports, he didn't think he had the skill to play at the next level. He gets to the next level, and he earns a starting job next to Riche. And then coach calls him in and tells him, sorry, you're going to the bottom of the depth chart. We got 5 freshmen coming in. You got to re-earn it. And he's okay with it. How many wide receivers, which is a very
diva position,
exactly,
yes,
right,
are going to be just cool with that in their own head and deal with it the way he dealt with it. Ended up having one of the most historic seasons of any Gator wide receiver, which could have even been that much better if he didn't hurt his knee. I just think it was just amazing the way he carried himself through a lot of those situations in life.
Good one. What you got, Andy?
Yeah, that was mine. I'll piggyback a little bit and I'll give you a little bit of I'll give you a separate one. But I just want to talk a little bit about that too. You go back to, he never thought he was going to be a top recruit, right? He said he expected to try to walk on somewhere, right? That was where his mentality was. But it was cool to hear him talk about that breakthrough game against Port St. Joe, where all of a sudden he realized, okay, wait a minute, I belong. This might be something special. And then I liked it towards the end where he said,
I particularly like how he put that, where Mama said we don't need that Florida prepaid college fund. That is
Right.
an excellent. That's an excellent way to exclamation that. But excuse me, didn't mean to step on your 2 bits. Please
No, that's
continue.
good. That's good. I thought it was cool carrying that same humbleness. How he says he walked on as a boy and he accomplished things that he never imagined he'd accomplish. Right. So even throughout his career, he was still maintaining that humbleness and was always kind of feeling like he was in the clouds, which that was pretty cool. And to hear him, how thankful he is to be part of Gator Nation is something you don't always hear. So you could tell it was genuine in his voice. But my 2 bits will be, gotta say it right, his achieving his 1,000-yard season against Florida State. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, right?
Exactly 1,000 yards
against Florida State, right? Perfect. So, yeah, that was awesome. And I will just say one more thing. It's amazing, these guys, some of these guys, we asked him about the 200, or I think it was the 60-yard touchdown. Like, he remembered the defense that they were in. It's like, how do they remember that stuff? As many balls as these guys have caught, or that they've ran or thrown a pass, like that they remember the defensive setup on plays it's astonishing to me. But yeah, he was awesome.
All right. Well, I don't want to beat the dead horse about the character. Guy's a great dude, so I'm going to play numbers game. We established it's more than 20 years since we had a 1,000-yard receiver. Let's talk about the year before that, where he didn't quite make 1,000, but we had Jabbar and Riche get 1,000 yards, and he was right there with the third receiver at the 700. Man, I miss those offenses. Coach Spurrier knew how to give us 1,000-yard receivers, and he went backward. Did you go back with Travis Terrell, Darrell Jackson?
It goes
before
back
that,
to
Jacquez.
Jackson.
Yes.
To Chris Doring all the way up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm very excited about where the program is now, but boy, is it really fun to just remember when we used to just chuck it at the Ole Ball Coach, the fun and gun. Because they definitely put the fun in the fun and gun, and then, Taylor was one of the last of that, so that was very cool. So
we got a guy now that can chuck it.
That's right.
So we'll see.
That's right. Yeah. Taylor says he's not doing the Miami Dolphins style toast when they don't get the 1,000 yards. So maybe he'll have someone join him in that 1,000-yard club next year. But great episode. Yeah. Good job, guys.
Yep. And then we can get him on the show.
That's right. Come on back.
And maybe his sons will be after Lagway.
That's right. Jacobs to Jacobs for 6.
Yep. There you go.
Very nice.
All right, gentlemen. This was a good one.
Excellent.
Enjoyed it.
They all are.
Yeah, I enjoy all of them. I don't know why do I say that?
Yeah. So, John, which episode did you not enjoy?
Right? Like, when do we ever come on in the close and be like, well, that's
man, that guy was bad.
But for our listeners,
we're saving that for when we interview a Seminole. Yeah.
But for our listeners, they're all good. Go back and listen to them all.
That's right.
Yeah. We keep it positive, like Taylor Jacobs.
Yes,
that's right. On this show.
That's what we strive to do.
All right, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.